questions and/or whatever you want. So I'm going to stand here quietly for a moment, and you are going to shout questions at me, or I will start lecturing. The choice is yours.
So a string is immutable?
That's not true.
It says it in here. Strings and tuples, I think, are immutable. So I guess if you modify a string, you make
I
it
hate this
more.
keyboard.
If you lean forward, you'll be in the shot.
Oh. I will.
So that's
I
correct.
don't know if you mind.
Oh, well, how can you tell?
I'm gonna lean forward that far
Now I can use your replace function on it.
and go.
I
Yeah,
guess you're creating a new one then, right?
So once you assign something to a string, you can't change it?
That's it.
The string is immutable.
I think
I couldn't just replace the, oh, wait a minute.
tuples and strings are immutable.
It helps if I put in the right number.
Yeah, when you change the string, you put up
Wait.
It's just, I'm trying to replace just one character in that string just by using an indexer. Okay. And he's saying, you can't do that. And I'm all like, you're right, I probably can't do that. 0, 1, 2, remember we had this conversation last time, right? And so what I'm trying to do is replace this middle character, and he's right, you can't do it that way. However, you can use a string function on it and replace it that way, at which point it copies, iterates through the string, replaces, and then returns. So not quite as easy as I expected, but I don't do that typically, so there you have it. Other questions?
Is
There
there a
will be.
specific memory for strings to be stored? Like in Java, we have something called string pool where all the strings have been stored. So like, why like do we have some specific memory for storing string?
No. Easy answer, right? There was discussions about I and using I as an iterator, and you sent me a link discussing the origins of using single letter variable names, and the answer is registries, because if you deal with CPUs, if you get down into the machine language level of pushing and pulling things out of RAM, right? You point to a variable in memory that's someplace in RAM, you pull that piece of information and you put it in a register in your CPU. You run your calculation using those registers, and then you change the information back in RAM. So the registers typically are X and Y. I mean, they're very small little letter things. So yes, I agree. But no, don't do that.
Another thing, like if we have a variable called test that is having a value 1, 2, 3, and if we reassign test to, say example 5, 6, 7, what will happen to that first string literal 1, 2, 3 in memory? Is it something that will be taken care by
Yes.
the memory
Yes.
reallocation function? Or
Python will just deal with it. You don't have to manage that the way you would in C. You don't have to worry about leaving things around. Yeah, the 1, 2, 3 is gone. It no longer exists.
Is there garbage collection?
On the fly, it doesn't really work like that in Python. In that
Didn't you just override it?
I did, but he's right about there is a pointer in RAM that would point to different information, and so what I did is I moved that pointer, and where's the original information? We don't deal with that in Python. It's dealt with by the interpreter.
okay. The reason why I asked that specific question is because in Java language, people used to say that the password cannot be stored in string, instead it should be stored in character array.
Yeah.
That's because like even though we remove a reference, that specific string literal will be present in the string pool, and hackers can easily
Yeah, it could
read
be
those
plain
that.
text.
So is there any kind of restriction like here, like if that reference, that 1, 2, 3 reference has been gone, it's still residing somewhere in the memory that can be utilized by?
That's a good question. I don't have an articulate answer for you other than I would have no clue how to get back to that instance in RAM. So that's very interesting. I would actually like to know more.
Can you get the memory address of a variable in Python?
I assume so. I know you can integrate C directly into your code as far as its literal pointer. Yeah, not off the top of my head.
It doesn't matter.
I could look it up. Oh, but not sure. I'm pretty sure you can, but yes, not off the top of my head. Next.
In the last class, you were talking some stuff about how to take the contents of these that you're doing kind of on the fly and put them into files.
Yes.
Can you go over that a little bit?
Sure. Happy to. Okay, I assume everybody knows how I created a folder and I'm now inside that folder.
That's fine.
Okay, so all I did was make a folder. Now, inside that folder, I'm gonna put a file. It's pretty straightforward. And you can do this any number of ways. I probably recommend using Notepad, really simple. And then we'd save it in that nice folder that I just created for myself, which is somewhere, thank you, Bill Gates. Temp and Python class, where are we? Didn't I say that?
Class.
Class temp, oh boy, look at me and my naming. My Python file.py. Okay, now if I come back here, there's my file, right? My file, boom. Biggity bam. It's that simple. And we can do anything you'd like from inside this. Anything you can do at command prompt here with a Python prompt, you can do inside that file.
I thought what you had showed in the last class, or what you were talking about in the last class, was taking some of the things that you were doing here on the fly and copying them into the file.
Okay. Like a literal copy paste.
Didn't you dynamically save a file from the command line?
Oh.
I thought that's some of what you were
I
showing.
exported to a file.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm exporting some information out to a text file or something
Okay, so
like
it wasn't, you weren't trying to, like, while you're going through and doing this stuff, basically taking the contents of while you're, like, dynamically doing some tests and then throwing that into the file.
Okay, you just used a very special word to me, dynamically doing tests. Now, my tests are actually Python files. I don't run tests like this typically. I do it from within a Python file. I have a Python file, call a Python file, which we're gonna get to shortly, but not today. We covered last time exporting text in and out of a text file.
Yeah, like opening a
Right.
file for append or
And-
opening a file for write. I think that's one
It's
thing
that,
we're doing.
I'm just trying to figure out where your question lies so I can
Okay,
answer it really thoroughly.
maybe it's a development technique, but you're doing a lot of stuff right here on the fly.
Sure, in the,
And
okay.
I don't know if that's maybe not how you normally develop Python.
It's
Um,
not how I normally develop Python.
Okay. I
So-
think that really answers the question. is
How I
whether-
normally develop Python is in Eclipse, and within Eclipse I have PyDev, and I have my active file on the left and my tests on the right. And my tests run my active file. Jumping a little ahead, but I think it's good. And only have one monitor here, so it's gonna look a little funky. Okay, I'm just gonna close this.
Essentially what I was reaching for is how do you develop something significant, and I was seeing all this stuff going on dynamically, and it's like, well, how do we get all that stuff into all these files that we're supposed to be working in?
Yep.
And it sounds like the answer is you don't.
You don't. This is my test. This is what I would type at that command prompt. And this is what this is running. So this is actually what I'm publishing that's going to be working and actually out there doing its job. This is to prove that this actually does what it's supposed to do. And this one's called models.py. And this one's called modelstest.py. So I have a Python file, test a Python file.
Got it.
That's the way I do it typically. Don't I? All the guys who watch me all day, I sit there and write tests all day, don't I? Yes, I do. Okay. Additional questions?
Are your tests usually in the same, right, sibling, like in the same folder as in the file?
Very good question. That is not my module. I just wrote the EMS module, which I will try and find here and show to you. Yep, there it is. Really small monitor here. So this is a Django application, but it works the same for Python. I have a subfolder here. I have other folders inside that, but here are my Python files.
Okay,
Every file has a matching test, every file that counts.
I see. Underscore test.
I didn't write this, I didn't write this, I didn't write this, I didn't write this, I didn't write this. That's why they don't have the underscore test. If we look at the Swerve module, which I don't have, this is a third-party API, which is why it's got all that extra garbage in it. We slide down to Swerve, which I did write from scratch. You'll see that everything other than this file, which is nothing, has a matching test file to go with it. That's Google standard. That's how I program now.
I should have the test in the same folder. Can we move it to a different folder structure?
You could. The reason I do it this way is because that's what the standard was and I got really used to it. I recommend it because I want models and models.test every time. So if I am at models and I have to go someplace else to find the test that matches it, it's cost me 2 or 3 clicks. 2 or 3 clicks is a big deal in my humble opinion. So I really like them right next to each other so I can see what's what and where they go. This is not like the way everybody does it. It's the way Google does it, and I've adapted and I like it. But if you want to put them in their own folder, knock yourself out. Django by default creates a file called tests.py, and they expect you to put all your tests in that file. No, don't do that. Answered your question. Anyone else?
Is there any framework for running the test on Python? Like
Sure.
test? Is there a framework?
Yes, Django has a built-in framework for running tests, but just unit test.
Okay.
It's its own library.
Oh, there
You
is
import
one.
it and your money. If you put at the bottom of the file, you put def underscore underscore name underscore underscore equals quote underscore underscore main underscore underscore quote colon run. It'll run those unit tests within that and standalone. I don't do it that way. My tests don't have an execute in them, and I'll show this to you. Here's a test file. It's got this test class, and at the bottom, there's nothing, right? How does it run? And the answer is, in this environment, I'm using the PyDev test runner. So if we go to PyDev,
Okay.
and we go to unit test, we see that I'm using the PyDev test runner. But I'm a huge fan of Nose. I like Nose a lot. So my modules do run Nose tests on the fly. If we look at my module, it runs really nicely like that. Actually, let's just start over. So I'm in the right folder. Perforce, BWalk. Now I need to set my environment variables, and I'm just going to show you Nose running. And I'm sorry to have to look this up. but I can never remember this set of code right here. I don't know, it just does not stick in my head. I think I have to set, oh, I know I have it in here. See, nose. And I wasn't kidding, I write everything down. And now we'll just run swerve. Now this is actually running those sets of tests in that folder. That's what the little dots are. So this whole big list of tests that I showed you down this left-hand side. Come on, stop that. All of these that say underscore test, every underscore test is now running. That's what those dots are. Each one of those represents a test within that test. When this is done, it produces an XML file, which is why I like it, because then on my web server, I read that XML file and put it into a nice little graph showing everything passed or didn't pass.
So in your,
Ooh, failure, good for me.
in your class, in your test class, did you mark something that you know to taking that is a test class?
Yes. Man, we are jumping ahead. So, yes, where it inherits from is test case,
Oh, okay.
and thus it's a test class.
Oh, okay. So that, and that one is in test helper.
The test helper is kind of an interesting discussion. It's actually in unit test. In this case, I'm using a Django helper for that, which is why it's called test helper. But there's what it's inheriting from. It's just test case. Test case, and test case comes from unit test. So it's unit test.test case. I'm sorry to use an example in Django because that's probably a little confusing, but doing the best I can. That was kind of funny. At least it was for me.
Do you invoke all of your unit tests from the command line?
98% of the time I invoke unit tests from inside Eclipse. Now it's running those unit tests in the background. That's how I do it 99% of the time. But I do have test runners for the server, right? So when we upload, the server runs all the tests and makes sure nothing fails. If it fails, you don't merge. At least that's the theory. Okay, so how we doing? Lots of off-the-wall questions. It's good.
What are we covering today?
Right. Okay.
Good segue.
No, I really.
Lists and tuples and compound statements according to this, but hopefully we can get along into organization. I'd really like that.
I'll bet a lot.
Other questions? Yeah.
Does it want to test in parallel or in series?
It depends on the test runner. Nose will run as many parallel tests as you would like. PyDev runs in series by default.
Okay, but you can change that.
I'm not sure in PyDev, but Nose will run as many threads as you want.
Okay.
So yes, very good question. Okay, well, let's have a look at the text then, and we'll see where we are. Lists and tuples 1.4.2. Yeah, I jumped ahead a little bit there. Sorry about that. There we go. So I'm going to stream ahead here a little bit. Okay, so this is an example of a list. Items. The square brackets on the outside represent a serialized list of items. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're indexed in that fashion. This is mutable. You can move items around. You can change the items in the list. You can pop. You can push. You can do all kinds of things with the list. You can also convert to a list if you have items, which is using the word list. We'll convert what you put in there, comma-separated value, whatever it is, into a list, which is kind of nice. I wanted to talk a little bit more about lists because I use them so often. I mentioned this last time and I want to make sure it's drilled into your head a little bit.
I thought list was the default for that kind of format.
Right.
Convert strings to a list.
Right, if I'm trying to go from one to the other.
Yeah.
So if I put a list inside that list, oops, sorry. And then list X, it's really the same thing. There's no difference between them, which is why I really don't like his example terribly much, because it
Yeah.
doesn't do much for me.
It uses a list to convert
But-
to a list.
Let's do ABC again because it's a little easier to understand. Ooh, that's pretty good. Okay, so if I type this, what is the answer? I see people straining to see. I'm going to try and move this window up to make it a little easier. Better? Okay, excellent. So, answer? 1. Everything's 0 indexed in a list. Now, what if I want to iterate across each value? I want to iterate across each value. Bueller?
4?
4, thank you. Now, there's a couple ways to do it. We'll use 4 this time because it's fun. Right, you're good, excellent, I'm glad to hear it. Hey, iterator, right? X is 1BC. I'm using the for iterator to iterate across each value in my list. For I in X, I, print I.
Why
And-
doesn't return everything without quotes, but before you have quotes around, single quotes?
You wanna know about these quotes here? No?
Press it.
This versus this.
Because I'm returning a list, the print function is, I didn't use print here. Right, because when I type this, it's actually returning that object. And when I run print, it actually runs it through some massaging and turns it into a nice string and outputs it. So that's why. Good answer. I like having the answers. Go ahead.
Does the first element there, that's the string 1, does it have anything that keeps it so that all these variables in there are the same type? Could you stick an integer in there instead?
And it is mutable, so I can do it on the fly.
Okay.
Lists. Okay, so brackets. List equals brackets. Just remember that in your money. Now let's try something else. And I need an equal sign. Happiness? Answer? 2.
Okay, you can hear me.
I'm messing with you. I'm messing with your head.
Not the side.
Answer?
That's what I see.
I got you, Roger. I got you. Okay, now the difference between the two. Tuples are not mutable. You cannot change a tuple. A tuple is what you set it to be, and it will always be what you set it to be. You're all like, why do I need to know that? You don't really. You just need to recognize that if you put things in parentheses, you can't change it. That's all you need to know for the moment. Most of the time, I'm going to end up using brackets because lists are awesome and I'm manipulating. If I'm going for RAM, speed, and or set manipulation, I'm probably going to use tuples because I don't want them to be immutable and they take up less RAM if they're immutable. But most of the time, don't worry about it. You're going to use brackets, which is lists most of the time. Da, 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 da. Wow, we just did all that. How cool is that? I should write a book.
So you just use parentheses to define a tuple.
Yep. Yep, yep, yep. Happiness, happiness, happiness. Okay, now we're talking about append and insert and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of cool. So we're going to go back to our nice comma. And what is he doing here? He's doing append, so we'll do that first. Append means the same in Python that it does in English, right? Append means put something on the end of it. Ta-da! So, yay, append. Now, we have several other really cool things we can do. 0, 1, 2, 3. Anyone know what the answer is?
Okay.
A, B, put this on the end.
Put this on the end. Now if I press X, this is a fundamental computer science concept. When you're dealing with a stack, you push and pop from that stack. And a list is literally a stack. You're creating a stack, and most of the time you append, which is last in, right? It goes in the back end of it, which is why I appended, and we put it on the back end of this. But we can also pull from the back end. I could put it on the front end. There's all kinds of ways that you can manipulate lists.
What if you gave no argument to pop?
I believe it's last in, first out. And I am correct. LIFO. L-I-F-O. That's versus FIFO, first in, first out. Once again, advanced computer science concepts for dealing with stacks, but lists are everything you could ever want. So happiness.
And if you did x pop 0, that would take the first guy, at whatever index you pass
It's,
it.
yeah, it's the same.
And remove it.
Yeah.
And return it.
You got it. Here, we'll do it anyway. Pop, X, pop, hop, 0. Gosh, look at me. Ooh, does it not push? Insert. Oh, God, I love it. Oh, boy. And I believe it's going to ask me for where do I want it. We're going to put it at 0. Oh, helps if I put it the right order. There we go. And X insert 1. Push, pop, insert, sort. It was already sorted. That's pretty kind of funny. No, it wasn't.
No, be careful.
Yeah, now it's right. Okay, we can also reverse.
Cool.
Super easy, really great. Note that for both sort and reverse, I'm not recreating the object, I'm actually manifesting on this same object. So X, I actually mutate the X object by running these methods on it. Happiness. Okay.
I can have a list of object as well, right?
You can have a list of anything. Objects. An object list is a very common thing for me.
So if I do x dot sort on object list, in what order it will be sorted?
Oh, for objects. You have to ask the abstract questions, don't you? I'd have to try it and figure it out. Each object has a unique ID. That might be it. I don't know. I've never tried to sort a list of objects. Good job. Okay, so we have X, we have Y. Amazingly functional, right? I create two lists, you just add them together and you're good to go. Really, really, really useful. Super duper useful. I could.
Especially with sort.
Yes, sort is really. Oh, he does pop. Look at that. And then he moves on. Oh, we're not ready to move on yet. Oh, can't do that. Of course you can't do that. That doesn't really make any sense. So.
But if you wanted to merge x and y, string function is not list function.
In capitals, look at me, I'm rushing. Okay, y, x, plus, y, check your work before pressing enter. All right, there we go. Merging two lists. Now if I have,
No, I'm saying combine them into one string.
oh. Right. Ha 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 ha! Don't tell me I can't do it off the top of my head. Okay, so.
You
Go
could-
ahead, Jess.
Could you have put x and y in parentheses and then dot join?
Like a tuple,
Could you do x dot join y?
and we'll just make a new one.
Wow.
Instead of, yeah,
Well,
so
you guys asking all these abstract
you
things.
could put
I
x
don't
and
know.
y instead of join z, don't define z, just join x plus y in the parentheses, would that work?
I'd try it.
Good answer.
I mean, these are really abstract cases we're talking about here. And I'm really pretty sure this is gonna fail. And C equals A plus B. Huh. Right.
Interesting.
Because they're not mutable, it converted them. Nice. So, nanny, it did work, just not the way I expected.
I didn't like it when I did that.
What? I just typed it out, man.
Oh, I see, no, sorry, the thing that.
All right. Enough of that. We've got lists and tuples. That's really good. Let's go to 1.6. And don't forget about the workbook at the end of this. It's really, really awesome. So the last chapter of this book is all workbook examples that you can play. Ooh, yay! I was hoping we were going to start dealing with this. So compound statements, control structures, yay, if. We talked about Boolean operators last time, right? And, or, nor, all these kinds of Boolean operators. Well, this is how you deal with them, if, then, else. And we have else if as well, which may be new to some of you. So I'm going to take a poll. Anybody ever not use the word if? Okay, so every single person in this room has used the word if in a sentence. It works exactly the same in Python. If is true, do the following. If is false, don't do the following. Okay, so if is true, I do the first thing. If is false, I don't do the first thing, but I could do the second thing, else. Right, so if true, do the first thing. Else, do the second thing. Huh? If then else. Now, else if uses a condition. So if is not true, is true, or is true, or is true, or is true, right? You can test a whole bunch of different things until you find the one that's actually true, and then you run based on that. I'm going to do some actual examples here in a minute. But you can have a bunch of else ifs, and then the very last one be an else. And so if all those else ifs don't go, the else will go. So lots of control over the flow using the magical if word. Some examples or a question?
How do you demarcate the statement block?
Indentation only. Carlos.
Can you mention switch? Other languages, right, have switch and.
Yes, we don't have switch in Python. That's case. We don't really have that. We have if and if else and else. So I actually felt really limited by that at one point, and now I don't feel limited by that in any way. So it's just a matter of adapting your design patterns a little bit differently. Case and switch. Okay, so let's do a couple of examples here. They've got nice one here, but it's a little bit boring. So let's do something else. Oh boy. Oh, look at that capital.
One equal?
Ooh, nice catch. Okay. Answer? Nothing, because there's no else, right? So let's strip this out here. We'll press enter. 4 spaces in. Press enter again. And it will say
Yes.
yes. Okay, let's do it again. Take the O out of it. Enter will be no way. If else. If else. Okay, now we can expand on this. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. And of course I screwed it up.
How come they put elif instead of else if in their
Where?
examples?
What?
Elif condition,
It's elif. Did I type else?
you typed else if.
Oh, that's why it failed.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
typed
it's
else.
ELIF. This is what I get for trying to do it on the fly with you guys. So don't hold it against me too much. In fact, it's probably easier if we do it this way. And we're trying to do x equals. This is Notepad, so probably not right. But the bottom line is that Python doesn't care. As long as you're consistent in your indentations, it's good. Standard is 4. And it should be class temp. There it is. Right, our answer was absolutely. Because x equals oingo boingo. If x equal to oingo, which it is not, we would have print yes. We didn't, we printed absolutely. So else if x is equal to oingo boingo, print absolutely, which is what we got. But if it wasn't one of those, we could have had it print didn't make it. So I'm gonna change x's value. Right, we'll run that same file again. Right, is x equal to Duran? No. I'm sorry, x equal to Oingo, the answer is no. Else if x is equal to Oingo Boingo, no. Else, didn't make it. We didn't make it. Basic control. This is how we control software. All right.
Did we not make it because we're hungry like the wolf?
Oh.
Sorry.
No, that was good. I like it. If. And those are wrappers. So, what are we supposed to be covering? 1/6, the whole thing. So, 4 statements is next on my list, which I already did today, so this is going to go really quickly. If I have a list, they call it a collection here, I don't know, I wouldn't call it that. But they have this list of items, and they iterate through this list, calling each item. So print item. So we should have that going by now. You should kind of have that in your head. Oh, wow. I think we dealt with dictionaries. Did we deal with dictionaries?
I don't remember that.
So I'm not quite sure why we haven't dealt with that yet. So I'm going to deal with it right now just because.
So much fun.
What could be more fun?
Okay, a dictionary. This is kind of hard to see here, but it's shift bracket. Yeah, shift square bracket gets you these. They're the curly brackets that you guys in Java love so much. Most of the time you put little semicolons next to them. Isn't that quaint? Yeah, we don't do any of that. 2 curly brackets equals a dictionary. A dictionary is a set of key value pairs. Okay, so I'm going to give you a really great example here. That is a dictionary. Okay, I'm press X. It's a dictionary.
Small dictionary.
Answer?
R.
Oh, I thought I was going to have to teach you something. Sheesh, you guys, come on. And this is indexable by anything. So we can put integers in here.
Can you get foo from bar?
I will, yes, it's not simple, but yes,
To
you
iterate
certainly
through
can.
and find a value.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
So x2
Other than that.
is 2. So you can use string indexes, you can use integer indexes, you can use almost anything you'd like as an index.
Is this a map or else you have a separate thing as a map for Python again? Like can we, like as we have maps, so
This,
is
I use the dictionary for all my maps. I think I answered your question.
Application.
Wow, that's cool. Okay, yes. So, good.
You can. What if you said x equals this, just like you have there 2 and the spelled out 2, but what if it was like 100 is the address colon 2, and then what if you try to get 50? Is it creating it at that position in the list, or is it really just
No,
that's,
this
it's
is,
a name value
this
pair?
is just a number.
You got it.
Right, and then in order to get X, I actually need to know
The full
1, 2, 7, 0, 3, 7, 4, 0, 2, 8, 4, 3, 4, 7, 0.
L.
L.
No, L just means it's a long integer.
Interesting. It means it's a what?
Long integer.
Which is how
Greater
big-
than
how big a number can you have?
16 bit, so it's 32 bit, I think.
Okay.
I'd have to look it up as to exactly what the differential is, but it has to do with the bit count.
Mhm.
Word length. Okay, so dictionary is really straightforward. Across the dictionary.
Oh, that's only the key.
Item 1, item 2. So if I iterate across them, it's going to return item 1. But when you print item 1, it's going to print the key, not the value. Which is why we're seeing that. If I want to see the values, ooh, that doesn't work. What do I do? Oh, but I can do even more cool stuff.
Oh.
I printed X, that's why it looks like that. Yeah, those are the 3 ways I do it most often. So, through the values, so I'm gonna go blah, 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 because I'm going through my values. If I'm going through the keys, it's going to be this horrible number and 0, right? This horrible number and 0. And if I do iter items, which I highly recommend due to its low memory usage, it actually gives me a tuple key value. So I can do extra special cool things and bust those out. Rather than having to deal with the tuple directly, I can actually right now when I iterate across these, instead of getting tuples, I actually put this in here. So key, value, value. So as I iterate through them, I get both my key and my value. Really super useful. A lot of times I want both the key and the value of the dictionary that I'm pulling. Very, very, very common use case. The most common use case is to iterate through the keys. That's just a really common thing to do.
I'm confused by the dot after the key.
That's a comma. Key, comma, value. I think if I enclose those in parentheses, it's still happy. I'm not sure about that though. Oh, I did like that. So that's the same idea, right? Instead of the tuple itself, is the same as this. So instead of one item that I then have to break into two values, I simply give it the two values I want this one item to be up front. No? Maybe? Kinda, sort of? I'm not sure. See a lot of frowny faces, so we'll try this here.
I think maybe some of the confusion might be the keys that it's going through in the one case, when if you use basically the same syntax for a list, it's not, giving you the key, or the for loop isn't going through the keys.
Okay.
So that, I understand it, but I can see why that would be a level of confusion.
That gives me just the keys. Now, I'm gonna iterate across using, which is going to return both the key and the value as a tuple. Now, that's a lot of work because then I have to bust those tuples out into variables. I don't wanna do that. So instead, and it's gonna print nothing because item's the same. Right? So now I did that iterate across, which is gonna give me tuples. So the first tuple is second value, and it iterates to the next one. The second tuple is first value. Helpful? There's a blaring question.
And syntax in a dictionary, after colon.
Space, single space,
single
one space, not before, only after. They're in the wrong order.
Can you scroll to the top one? Because
Dictionaries are not ordered. Dictionaries are indexed. So you cannot depend on the order of items in a dictionary. If you're worried about the order of items, you need to use a
List.
Yes. Dictionaries are for lookups. Lists are for indexes. Now, is it possible to merge the two of those? Carlos?
Sorted dictionaries?
Sorted dict. And that's a Django native object, actually. But there is a type called sorted dict, a sort supplied by Django that allows you to have a sorted dictionary. So as you push things onto it, it maintains that order. How's it do it? It puts them all into a list, which is really kind of cool. Dictionaries. Okay,
From
dictionary.
a structure standpoint, if you had a list and each of the items within the list was itself a list with 3 objects in it, if you did this for first variable, second variable,
It
can you
would
add
give you a
in
list.
third variable? If you follow me?
Yes, it would assign them properly,
It would.
if I follow you
It
properly.
would go 1, 2, 3 and put them all in? Okay.
But you can have multi-dimensional lists, obviously, at which point that might not give you what you're looking for. You can also have lists of dictionaries and dictionaries of lists. So they all just play nicely with each other.
But if you did like a 3x3 array or something like that, you could just say for the first one and say variable 1, 2, 3, and basically yank them out
Really
without doing like 2 for loops.
Like that?
Yep.
And you want it to do this. sure. Of course, Python's amazing. So yes, that would work. Amazing.
You can have multi-dimensional tuples as well.
Yes.
And actually, that's a good segue into what are the allowable types for keys and values.
What's not allowed for a key?
Yeah. Not allowed for key.
A tuple list.
There you go.
Can you have an object
Yes.
be a key?
Answer happiness. Well, there you go.
Why couldn't you?
No, there shouldn't be any reason because it's an object,
Yeah.
so it should be happy with that. So very, very few things you can't use as an index.
Just anything's an object.
I'm trying to think of
You can use
something
none.
that I can't. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's right. You can't do that.
None?
Why wouldn't it let me do that? Oh. Okay, so. CTION. Yeah, that does nothing, right? You can't use this for an index, obviously. I knew you could.
Why wouldn't you?
You can't call. Yes, you can call, but it'll be a pass, which means it's none. So even then, care to try again?
So you can use none? You can use none as a key?
Yes, but there can only be one.
Only once, yeah.
And I believe you can just use an object as well.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, anything, pretty much anything. All right.
Can you have like, what if I have added another object with the same key? With the last one will be taken or the first one will be overturned? Like
If you try to reuse
key
existing
one,
key.
object obj
Overwritten.
Don't you
overturned, right?
just assign at that
Yeah,
point?
indexes are unique.
Won't you define a function if we colon path? What's that mean?
That's supposed to be next week, but we may get to that shortly. The word pass means do nothing in
Oh,
Python.
okay.
And if I want an empty object, for example, it's class name, object, colon, pass, if I just want an empty object.
Oh.
Okay, let's see what else is on our book reading for today. Oh, it's time to quit. Oh my gosh. So,
Stacking up outside.
yeah, we got four. We didn't do while. Okay, so I'll do while next time, and we have to do try except. So I didn't get quite as far, but then we'll move into organization. So, yeah, good. Look for me around if you have questions. Yes, I'm always eager to help. Thank you for coming. I hope you're enjoying your experience.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.